Dear viewers, thanks so much for joining me in another weekly roundup where I'm bringing you all the indie news, games, releases, patches, free games and teasers I discovered last week. Let's dive in, starting with reveals and announcements. Book of Travels turned another page in its arduous journey towards a brighter future. After a borked launch resulting in the layoffs of 60% of personnel for this small indie studio, which is now even smaller, the remaining devs said they would make it right. Roughly 3 months ago, the community voted they would rather have an optimized, fairly bug-free game instead of new features. The devs obliged. The last 3 months, the Unity engine was updated to a much newer version, allowing the devs to make the game feel smoother and add new features soon. This resulted in a latest patch, the fruit of their labor of the last 3 months, and it's currently available on a beta branch, and the devs warn everyone that it's going to be much more unstable initially than retail because, the team is super small and has very little testing capacity. Testing is required, however, which is where the community comes in, doing the devs a favor. This game has always been very open and upfront with the community, asking their feedback, and now the studio can reap what they've sown in the past. The message was well received and I'm sure plenty of people will step in to be a beta branch tester. A very wholesome story and a nice start of the episode, I thought. Then something a little bit less wholesome. There's this cool ARPG called Superfuse. I did a preview of that one on my main channel even to give some exposure. An alpha was planned too, for which I signed up. I try to play as many of the games I am featuring in the roundup. It makes for much more insightful videos and keeps me up to date with the indie scene. This is why I don't mind alphas and betas on this channel as compared to community testing and Last Epoch, for example. And I want to help the devs as well by filling in the bug reports, which I regularly do. Anyway, a month ago I got an email I got selected for the alpha, which is great. That was supposed to launch early July, but afterwards, nothing. And now, this week, they're sending another email stating, and I quote, "We have been forced to alter the scope of the test, which in turn means you won't receive your key. We know this is inexcusable and again, we are sorry." Wait a minute, I don't think I've ever had something like this happen to me. In like 8 years of YouTubing, both channels combined, getting into an alpha or beta and then getting kicked out again. Without ever playing the game. That's pretty ridiculous actually. But okay, fine, mistakes happen. Then, back to wholesome, the Dutch indie game Schim released a new trailer explaining how the protagonist, the little black blob, can not only move in the shadows but also activate objects while in the shadows. I'm just running this trailer for you, this is sort of non-news, but this game may be one of my most anticipated games. It is so recognizable as a fellow Dutchie, all the scenery in this game, and I love the music that goes with this as well. It really doesn't get any better or any more indie, to be honest. Hard West 2, the top-down turn-based Western RPG, has its sight aimed at August 4th to release the game. A demo for the game will be available July 28th, and to top it all off, the first chapter of the game will be playable for free also from July 28th. I don't know the difference between the demo and that free chapter, seems strange to be honest, but it's great to see more and more devs releasing a demo so people can get a good feel for the game before buying it. Time for some polar adventures with indie title South of the Circle, a narrative-driven game about a polar expedition gone wrong. They announced the launch in a trailer August 3rd, 2022. Expect lots of dialogues, hardships to overcome, voice acting. This game, where planes disappear from the radar, has been on my radar for a good while for its strong presentation and visual style. This could be a very engaging story, set in the background of the Cold War, exploring personal relationships between the two main characters, Peter and Clara. I would love to get my hands on this one. Here's a cute indie game for you, Kloa, Child of the Forest. There is a reveal trailer which you're watching right now. It is currently a Kickstarter project and this looks phenomenal in my opinion. Here's what the devs have to say about it. Consumed by a mysterious curse, restore a once lush forest and its inhabitants to their natural state in this action-adventure tale. Experience fast-paced combat, puzzles and the beauty of nature captured in handcrafted pixel art. The game is inspired by Studio Ghibli and Breath of the Wild, definitely noticeable those inspirations. I'll leave a link to the Kickstarter if you're interested. Project Haven is a turn-based strategy squad game, very much like XCOM or Wasteland. This one is set in a dystopian city. It has a twist where you can actually shoot the weapons of squad members yourself, and the small indie dev team behind it did a July development update. The post starts off saying that the gameplay backend systems have been reworked, allowing the devs to easier add gameplay features. Interestingly, not only the devs can do this, also the community can. Modding is going to be a big thing here, and the whole game is developed with modding in mind. Modders get access to the same access tools that the devs are now using to make their game, which is really cool. Next to gameplay, the art has been improved. Here you see 2 more art pieces. They're working on late game level design, which they're not going to spoil, of course. And finally, the game now has ray tracing and DLSS for those shiny visuals. Sometime this year the game launches. It's been 2 weeks since Esse Proxy launched, and the devs posted in Discord 5 features the community can choose from for its next update. Highest votes will be implemented first. Everything will happen at some point though, most likely, meaning we're getting new game plus, new maps added to the current story, survival mode with waves, new guns, new enemies, and an accessibility mode, or an easy mode. So far, New Game Plus is winning, which makes sense. And if any of these games look interesting, be sure to wishlist them. It helps the devs out a lot. Similarly, you can subscribe to this channel, which helps me out a lot. We're on our way to 300 subs and growing really fast, so I appreciate it. It's teaser time, a mix of small updates or teasers I think are worth showing. PoE announced that Sentinel and Recombinators are not going core. I'm very neutral about Sentinel, fun mechanic, but it hasn't blown my mind. Recombinators, I mean, even I can tell, those are just too strong for crafting, so it's understandable. They will be revamped and slightly brought back in a future league, something PoE has promised and delivered on before. PoE also announced the next league will now start August 19th instead of the week before. Zoria, Age of Shattering, posted that the game wasn't actually abandoned and the devs therefore have not shattered expectations. Instead, they're working hard on it. I'm not entirely sure that puts people's minds at ease without clarifying what they're working on, but fine. The game in itself looks interesting enough, with the devs describing it like this. A story-driven, party-based RPG with strong tactical elements, base and follower management that takes place in the expansive fantasy world of Zoria. A world filled with magic, ancient history, tumultuous politics and countless mysteries. Here's something cool. I see red, but see for yourself. Proceeding with the patch Plaza, bringing an overview of patch news. There is a big patch from indie studio Bare Metal, the team behind Exanima. Patch 0.8.4 brings a load of features, but most notable is the combat overhaul. I have purchased Exanima after this update, it is only like €12. This game created its own engine just to support the vision of the devs. That vision includes unique physics-based top-down combat, procedurally generated weapons, and a low fantasy universe set primarily in a dungeon. This new update overhauls combat movement, combat feel, the pace of combat. It adds a procedurally generated glaive, as well as controller and Steam Deck support, although the devs stress this game is best played with mouse and keyboard because of the physics. Problem is, for me at least, I can't get into a game like this, to be honest. To me, this is just an example of realism going too far, and that's not always a great idea in a game, in my opinion at least. It's just very unintuitive, the dungeon is static, meaning the layout is always the same, the UI is really clunky, actually the whole game is really clunky, I don't know. A lot of people wanted me to play this, but I don't know. I'll give it another go later. And to be fair, the game warns you about this specifically, so I knew what I was getting into, I just hoped I would enjoy it more. The first patches are out for Colony Sim Clanfolk, update 2 and 3, and overall some game mechanics got toned down a bit. This sim just got a little bit more simple. Disturbed sleep, for example, is less punishing. Fires burn for longer with the same number of resources, and a rather big change, you can now sell bark to vendors. Bark is mostly a byproduct, it's not super useful, so being able to sell it for 15 gold even, that's pretty nice. Another massive change is that the auto supply system is now a lot better. Previously, it was hard to tell why certain tasks weren't getting completed. It could be either shortage of materials or your villagers just doing other tasks, not prioritizing the ones that you want them to. Well, to be fair, that's you not prioritizing, but hey. With the new overhaul, the tooltip shows you exactly why a task isn't getting completed, either because of shortage of supplies or because of lacking priority. Villagers now have an easier time keeping relevant fires lit overnight, meaning fires that actually warm them via vents. No more cold nights without you being able to change that. Hunters now hold bunnies back home when they're cold, and personal needs no longer break chained tasks, meaning that if your settlers are hungry, your entire economy doesn't break down. The solo dev announced upcoming changes as well, such as your clanfolk carrying tools back home, burying their loved ones automatically, so you don't have corpses lying around everywhere without you noticing, and the jug well duplication bug I reported on in my review of the game. Vampire Survivors released its bi-weekly patch, bringing 4 new achievements, 1 new challenge stage, 2 new arcanas, 1 new weapon and 1 new character called Gioruntun, or something like that. Liberté, the French Revolution-inspired ARPG where you're using cards to battle your way through the zones, released another big content patch. This early access game is regularly putting out patches, which is great to see. In this one, they're adding 2 new playable characters, Victor, a more melee-focused one, and Anna, both using firearms and melee weapons. Interestingly, the way you play those new characters is by morphing the main protagonist, René, into either Anna or Victor. Skin shifting, the devs called it. Furthermore, favors are added, daily quests, and by doing those you unlock faction rewards, a bit like a battle pass system, but then without spending real money on it. I like that, it looks good. You can get in-game currency, materials or unique cards to your deck as a reward. Finally, the game implemented keepsakes, a unique type of card that changes the entire deck, for example by reducing cooldowns. If you're interested in seeing me play this patch for 30 minutes and get a good feel for the game, check out yesterday's slice of gameplay video. It's an edited video where I'm showing you most parts of the game after playing the game myself for a while, so I also know what to expect and what I want to show you. No Man's Sky Endurance launched, and it is already the 20th free update, introducing a complete overhaul of freighters and fleets alongside a total rework for space bases that allow players to build impressive structures on their own capital ship. It looks, once again, magnificent. I haven't really been able to get into this game just yet, played only for a few hours, but who knows, one day. Then, releases. Looking back at what released last week. Riftbreaker Metal Terror, the DLC to Riftbreaker, is received well with a 79% user rating, and as expected, Stray landing on its feet and surviving the launch with a 97% user rating. I've watched a review from SkillUp on this one, he was very impressed, but did state some frame rate issues. Also, the devs mentioned this in a post, and an upcoming patch should fix those. It is apparently GPU driver related. As Dusk Falls is an original interactive drama that explores the entangled lives of 2 families across 30 years. Starting in 1998 with a robbery gone wrong in small-town Arizona, the choices you make have a powerful impact on the characters' lives in this uncompromising story of betrayal, sacrifice and resilience. It's a visual novel, playable with up to 8 players in multiplayer, which is interesting, and it's available on Game Pass too. Let's look ahead at what's releasing this week. Cartel Tycoon launches July 26th, where you can become a drug lord basically. It's been in early access for a few years now, Steam user ratings are at 78%, and if you like sim games and violence and drugs, this might be for you. The Tarnishing of Juxtia, created by Actual Nerds, that is the studio name, will have you hack and slash through its scenery soon. It features challenging combat, a hauntingly beautiful score and a sinister narrative work in unison to make The Tarnishing of Juxtia an unforgettable 2D dark fantasy action RPG. There's a demo available as well on Steam and the game launches July 26th. Multiversus, a new platform brawler, goes into free open beta July 26th. This is a game produced by Warner Bros. And it features all sorts of random heroes and characters from Warner Bros. Movies. Bugs Bunny, Wonder Woman, Batman, Harley Quinn, LeBron James, quite interesting. They've stylized all those characters to be much more appealing to kids and gave them voice acting to match, meaning super cringe annoying voice acting. Someone in my Discord, which you could join by the way, is already playing the closed beta running right now and he's liking the game a lot so far. Steam user rating tends to agree with a 93% positive rating. The game promised no loot boxes, just a battle pass for now, and it seems this is a very solid title if you're into this sort of game. Bear and Breakfast is a laid-back management adventure game where you build and run a bed and breakfast, but you're a bear. Awesome premise this one, it launches July 28th. Sweet Transit is a unique city builder where the railway is king and trains are the sole means of transportation. Quaint villages will expand into bustling cities farms to industrious factories and steam-powered rail to combustious diesel in this interconnected, train-driven world. This can be very soothing and you don't see often. You get to build both the towns and the transit network. Seems to be a solo dev project as well. It launches July 28th into early access. This week's sort of free games, because I'm Dutch and I'm cheap. Epic has a bunch of shit for an already free game, Shop Titans. It gets to 78% on Steam, but it's rather clear Epic is running out of decent free games, at least temporarily. The other one you can get is War Game Tannenberg, an online multiplayer World War I game, which claims to be authentic and realistic. Steam rates it an 87%, which is not bad at all. Uncle Phil from Game Pass serves up 4 new titles. Watch Dogs 2, an open world game where you can hack and perhaps slash your way through the world. As Dusk Falls released, I already mentioned that one. RTS game Sins of a Solar Empire Rebellion launched over there, and finally some racing action in MotoGP 22. Time for some personal updates. What have I been up to? I already mentioned I played some Exanima, for me not a great success to be honest. I continued my homemade Necromancer and Path of Exile I told you about last week. It is now level 92 and doing tier 14 content, so that's pretty good. I'm still just enjoying playing that game, even without a clear purpose, which is rather unique in action RPGs. There are a few improvements I would like to make to my character, and I'm farming to take on some bosses, because it's really a boss killer build. But you know, I'm just playing to have some fun, which is great. I also started playing Vampire Survivors again because I'm so behind on that game. Every 2 weeks this guy adds new stuff and I just don't have the time to play it all. Not sure I'm catching up honestly, but I'm working on achievements and it's a ton of fun. And that's it. If you have any questions or remarks or suggestions, put them in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did and you want more like this, consider liking the video or even subscribing. Thanks for watching and for making it to the end. Love you all. See you soon. Bye bye.